The chaos, conflict, and doom of suffering comes up when we perceive women the way they want us to perceive them. They are extremely attractive, extremely valuable, right? That is where the doom of suffering starts. Because we perceive them the way they want us to perceive them. Nowadays, women are just walking naked. Why? You like it. Even when you talk shit, it affects you. Why is it affecting you? It's how you are perceiving it. Sometimes you like it. When you don't, your friends do like it. Right? That is the doom in that suffering. We can't change that. We can't change ourselves. We choose. They're just another human kind dealing with their own shit in their own way. We don't need to see them in that place. They just exist. Now, Isaac, this mind that chatters, projects ideas, she's attractive. Or I noticed that she liked me because she smiled, she laughed. And we all know that is the language of women. I noticed. Women want you to notice. You want you to notice. It's a subconscious emotional reality that we are projecting on the outside world, not knowing. I noticed. That mind that chatters, that mind must be so quiet. I noticed, I realized, right? She was flirting with me. That mind that noticed, realized, and came up with a conclusion. She never even said a word, but came up with a conclusion. That mind must be so quiet, right? No, we are inquiring this together. We are trying to find the cracks in the problem. To observe Hannah, the what is, she is what is. That mind, it must be extraordinary quiet. If I must listen to what you are telling me, I must be attentive. If I am attentive, my mind must be quiet. If I judge your words, then my mind is not quiet. If I understand your words in a way they make sense to my way of perception, my mind is not quiet. Hannah converses with you and then she's laughing, she's excited. The only way it will suit you is concluding that she's flirting with you. You gave her the upper hand. She has power over you. You have handed over your power. That mind, to find the crack in that problem is to see the problem or to be attentive to a situation without analyzing or understanding things in ways that they will suit me or they will suit my sense of reality. Right? So the thing is, I must not compare what you are saying with what I already know. She's laughing. It doesn't mean she is flirting with you. That is the crack. Because you pay attention to what she is saying and to what she is laughing to. Nothing, the words, it's you do not know. Because you are paying attention to her body language, right? To her laughing and to her words. Because this is where you understand everything as it is without comparing it to what you already know. Because when you think you know, because you compare what she is telling you to what you already know, that is where conflict is. You will either be disappointed in a psychological world, you will be sad, you will question yourself, you will even have a bad day. And that is one trick to control your emotions. You either will be disappointed, you will either need to reciprocate, you will either also like her because of her perception, you will either have questions going to work, you will either come up with a specific conclusion to suit yourself. That is where you give out your power. That is where the problem, that is where the crack is. Right? Now the mind starts to chatter and come up with conclusions. That is the suffering. The mind has to come to a standstill for it to pay attention. And in the moments of paying attention, if there is another action involved, you pay attention to that action. You look at her and then you see her is attractive. That is the being inattentive. And being aware of your inattentiveness, that is the crack. You be aware of that. You see her as attractive because you are comparing her to what you already know, or at least what you think you know. Right? But in that moment of seeing her as attractive, she's not attractive, but you see her in that way, you are not being attentive. You are inattentive. But paying attention to your inattentiveness, that is the crack. That is how you deal with your own shit. That is how you will be ahead of women psychologically. That is where the freedom is. Because the moment you think she's attractive and you be aware of that, she will think she has the upper hand, only to realize it's all an illusion she's living on. And women can be aware of their illusions only if you choose as a man to be attentive. So we are agreeing that the mind must be quiet, totally silent, for it to attend. It must come to a standstill. But at the same time, the body, that is the organ, must also come to a standstill. Because for you to attend, and then your journey is reacting because of your perception, even when you attend, and then you are aware that you are identifying her as attractive, there is a journey standing. Right? Even when you are aware of that pattern, but Johnny is standing, you won't be attentive. That is another fact. So you have to see and be attentive instantly before you let your mind control you until Johnny stands, until your body moves. You can go back and understand your movements of the body first, maybe you come back to perceptions. Or you can start with perception, then go back to the body. But you don't plan to do it, especially in the psychological world. In the biological world, you can do it. In the biological world, maybe it's too much sugar, I need to reduce the, right? Maybe I'm just tired then, right? Maybe I am out of energy then, right? So biologically, it's easier to deal with and understand when time is involved. But psychologically, no. Totally different things. So we are agreeing and saying that the mind has to see the whole structure of violence. That is where freedom is. And so to look at it, at that violence, the mind must be at a complete standstill. Therefore, you have a still mind. Before all the influences and perception of specific sense and feelings and sensations and simulations in your body, before all these happen, not on a biological world, even when biological world is involved, the only thing that belongs to the psychological world is a still mind. Because society doesn't want man to be free. Because Because freedom is barely outwardly. It is inwardly. It is psychological. Man is accumulating assets and everything, thinking that will set him free. Accumulating women, right? Because women nowadays appear so sexy, so attractive, saying that will set him free. But until you are free, you engage. When you are already free, that is the torture and slavery. You need not to accumulate for you to be free. You need to be aware and attend without a sense of expecting freedom. But on a biological world, you want shelter, you want food. That might make sense. So we are agreeing again that every act of attention, every act of listening, we are agreeing together that every act of listening, it is attention. Not to practice it at all. Every act of listening, hearing from Hannah, observing her, that is attention, and that is freedom. And we are agreeing again that not to practice at all. Because if you practice, then you have already become inattentive. Are you following all this? So if you practice being attentive, then you are inattentive. But every action of listening is attention. Yet you do not need to practice it. Every action of looking at Hannah, as there is no space between you and Hannah, that is attending. And that is when the mind is on a standstill. That is where freedom is. But you do not need to practice and say, me and Hannah, we are one thing. And I don't need to. Because you are practicing. And when you are practicing, you are being inattentive. And being aware of your inattentiveness, that is being attentive. That is where the freedom starts. And in the moments of that inattention, there is action. Be aware of that action. Either you are practicing, you are making a move, you are analyzing that action. Be aware of that action. That is attending. That is where the crack starts. That is where freedom starts. Listening to the politician's propaganda, to your ex-girlfriend, the one who walked away, the one who wants to come back, to a lover, to a mistress, to your noises, to politicians, to everything, to the chaos. That silence is not possible. The suffering starts in perception, which is she is attractive. That perception that she is attractive communicates a simulation in the body, simulation of the organs, which means there is no silence. And these simulations, there are false feelings and emotions because of how you perceive the world, the way you think you know. Through that, there is the conditioning of your sensations of the body. You meet with Hannah, you get intimate physically. That conditioning of the sensations of the body, because you think that is pleasure, when pleasure is just for the past, it's not pleasure, it's a false perception. That heightens that simulation. And then it becomes a loop of from this sensation that you enjoyed last week, last day, the way she conversed with you, the way she showed more love and more care. Now you are attracted to her. So through simulation, because of your perception, you are attracted to her, right? You are not attracted to her because you are, but it's because of the simulation. Being attracted to her goes back to the perception. It becomes a loop on its own. In that loop, in that simulation, that is the torture. Have you been enjoying this? Is this too much for you? Welcome on board.